Well, good afternoon. So, I wanted to get on here and I wanted to talk about prayer. I wanted to talk about the prayer that matters the most. The prayer that matters the most. Let's talk about it. The prayer the prayers that matter the most. And I was just I was on my lunch break and I was thinking about this and the time and the seasons that God has been calling me into prayer. And I found out something. On my prayer watches. I found out that there are prayers that matter more than your convenient time of prayer. Okay? Prayers that matter the most. I'm trying to get out here. Prayers that matter the most. Now, a lot of times we have our times of prayer that I call our convenient times of prayer. These are times that we set aside, to pray. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those prayers matter too, okay? But then there are times where God calls you into prayer. There are times when God calls you into prayer. And this is what I call the prayers that matter the most. Because these times are usually times that are very inconvenient for you. When God calls you into prayer, it's usually at a time or times that are very inconvenient for you. They are what I call sacrifices. Sacrifices. A step above your fasting and praying. Because when you fast and pray, that's kind of convenient too. Because usually, you planned and you prepared yourself to fast and pray. You've even prepared your meals that you're going to eat during your time of fasting. But even though you are, sacrificing it to some extent because you are abstaining from certain things, but it's still a level of convenience for you when you pray and fast. Because like I say, you have planned for that. Okay, you have prepared to fast and pray. So I'm talking about the times when God calls us into prayer. The times that God calls us into prayer, this is sacrifice. Because these are always times that are very inconvenient for you. Because God will call you to get up at 2:30, 2:40, 3:30, 4:34, 5 a.m. in the morning to get up in prayer. And this is usually times where you're in like that deep sleep. Where you're in the type of sleep where it's hard to wake up out of, even though you wake up, but because that deep sleep is on you, it's hard to wake up or to get up out of that. That is sacrifice. I'm learning that these are the most important times to pray when God calls you into prayer, because these are sacrifices. These are sacrifices because only God knows the enemies that are at your gates at these hours and these times that he's calling you into prayer. And he knows the angelic intervention. He knows the angels that are assigned to these hours or these times of prayer, which is why he is calling you to pray at these times, because there are things that you may not can see that is happening, that is going on, but God knows. And so that is why he calls you into prayer at these times, which, like I say, are usually times that are very inconvenient for you. These are the prayers that I call the prayers that matter the most when God calls you into prayer. When God calls you into prayer, these are the prayers that matter the most. That, and I'm be honest, I'm not always obedient to responding to these calls. I'm not always obedient. But I'm learning though that if you are going to be obedient in prayer, it definitely needs to be when God is calling you into prayer at these certain times, or these certain, and sometimes God may call you into prayer. You may be getting ready to sit down and eat a nice meal. And God may say, push that aside. I want you to pray right now. These are the prayers that matter the most. These are sacrifices. This is above fasting and praying. Because like I say, fasting and praying, there's some level of convenience in that. But when God calls you to pray at an unexpected time, you're not even expecting it. You haven't prepared for it, okay? And God is calling to prayer. You need to respond to these calls to prayer. These are the prayers that I say. These are the prayers that matter the most. The prayers that when God calls you into prayer. And I don't care how deep your sleep is. If your eyes wake up, you better get up out of that bed. A lot of times, once you get up and you begin to make the effort to press into prayer, that sleepiness, that slumber will break off of you. Okay, and before you know it, you've been on prayer, you've been in prayer, you've been watching and praying, meditating on the word. It'll be 2-3 hours and it doesn't even feel like it. It doesn't even feel like it. Because you're in the supernatural realm at these times. So I just wanted to get on here and give you all some wisdom and some counsel about the prayers that matter the most, and why it is so important that we respond to these times of prayer when God is calling you into, in my time, the time that I've set aside, God will still call me into prayer unexpectedly. Like times where, like I say, I'm in a deep sleep, my sleep is good, and I wake up and I know I'm supposed to pray. Okay? These are the prayers that matter the most. So don't allow them to pass you by. Don't allow these times and these hours and these watches to pass you by. Okay? So y'all have a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend.